The title of the talk today is Freedom's Just Another Word. And that, of course, is the lyric from Janis Joplin's song, Me and Bobby McGee from the 60s. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Nothing. That's all the Bible.
And interestingly, the way that we describe freedom winds up being really important. What is freedom to you? For some people, freedom is not knowing that it's the first of the month. Because that's financial freedom. Because they don't need to be concerned about the things that keep them focused on that day-to-day, month-to-month, hand-to-mouth process. For some people, freedom is getting out of the cast or the brace or off the crutches or whatever, and back to that vitality and comfort and good health that they've been yearning for. And some people, freedom is to no longer feel the oppression of a job that, I'll use the spiritual term, sucketh. So freedom can mean something different for everybody. And the idea here, and what I love to do around Independence Day, is to talk about what freedom means to you. And the important thing for me is that freedom is not just another word. The idea that there's any such thing as just a word or just another word is completely false. On the one hand, they're just words. We're cleaning out the house and taking stuff off of bookshelves and putting the books where they belong. And we have one of those dictionaries. That's a really thick dictionary, thousands of pages, all sorts of words that were in it. And each one of those words has its own meaning, a very specific meaning. And each one of them is created with a different idea in mind. So what we're using the words for is to convey the ideas that we have in our mind so that we can put those out into the world. My first counselor, a very wise woman, I was having one of those debates that you get into in therapy. I said something, she says, "Oh, so you mean this?" And I said, "Well, I don't mean that." Well, she says, "What's what you said?" I said, "Well, that's not what I meant." And she says, "Oh, it's only words?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Just semantics?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Honey, words is all we got." In order for me to take the idea that exists in my mind and transfer it to your mind, to your awareness, to your understanding, I have to use words. Sometimes there's one word that perfectly describes it, and we love in the announcements putting in one word that may or may not mean something specific, but it gets our mind going. What does that word mean in this context? But even more importantly than being able to convey the idea from my mind into somebody else's mind so I can have a conversation and a dialogue with them, is that those words that we use that are in our minds are the way that we are formulating our concept and the way that we are creating our next new intention. If you go to a vacant lot, you might be able to imagine a lot of different things that could be happening in that vacant lot. You know, perhaps there's going to be a playground, or there's going to be rituals at full moon at midnight, or whatever it is. You go there with an architect, and they can tell you what the shops are going to look like, what the homes are going to be like, how big the balconies are, and all the rest of that. And they can use very specific words because they have an idea of what's possible there and what can be created there. So those words are very powerful, the ones that we are using to describe what could be next. That's the very beginning of the creative process. If I am going to create something new, I need to start where I am now and define exactly what it is that I'm going to be creating or inviting or allowing. And let those words be the mold, be the shape for what it is that's going to be coming next. So words is important. Words are very, very important. Then one of the things that comes up is, well, as metaphysicians, we are trained to claim something that's not in our experience now. So if I'm talking about having an experience that I'm not having, that could make me an optimist. That could make me a hypocrite. If I'm talking about something and if I'm not currently walking that walk, then perhaps I'm a hypocrite. Perhaps I'm just a liar. What it comes down to is when I am stating something that I'm going to be bringing into experience that's not here right now, it's all about intention. I love celebrating Independence Day and 4th of July in Philadelphia because everywhere else in the country, all over the world, they say that Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia in 1776. And here we say, with the 7th and Market, because we can hone in and fine tune on that. I actually spent yesterday with my brothers, and one of them lives in Boston, and I love to tease him and his kids that we started American history here, even though they had Paul Revere and all that other stuff. Oh yeah, Plymouth Rock, that was important, but American history, that's us. So that's just a fun little sideline. But in the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson said, all men are created equal. And yet he owned slaves. And he knew that there was not equality between him and the other human beings that he owned. So on the one hand, that would make him a hypocrite. If he wanted to keep on doing that, that would make him a liar. You have no intention of doing that, you're just trying to make up a story. The hypocrisy of having to live in the world that way, because that was the way that the economy was working at the time, and he couldn't just give up his slaves because there was too much else for him to lose. Well, what he was doing is he was setting an intention. He knew that he couldn't do it right now, but in the same way that a metaphysician looks at somebody who has their arm in a sling, or an unemployment situation, or no health insurance coming up in 20 days, and being able to set the intention and see the truth beyond the circumstance that we're in now. That's what Jefferson was doing. He was looking the fact in the face and knowing something better, knowing something different. And oh, by the way, when it comes to political rhetoric, he was just the biggest badass. I mean, if you can ever get yourself into a situation where you're having a disagreement with somebody, and you can start by saying, we hold these truths to be self-evident, and then go on with whatever your point is, if they can't stop you at we hold these truths to be self-evident, you can't argue with any of the rest of it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, born with the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It wasn't the truth then. Not all men were born with those inalienable rights. He had to mention men because women weren't even considered as part of the equation at that point. But he meant all are created equal, with certain inalienable rights. Among them, this is not the list, among them, life, the right to liberty, the right to the pursuit of happiness. And even with something as simple as that, it gets misunderstood every time. Declaration of Independence says we have the right to happiness. No, it does not say we have the right to happiness. It says we have the right to the pursuit of happiness. We can chase it as much as we want. We may or may not get there. We have the right to pursue happiness. We have the right to set our course, to make our choices, to do whatever it is that we're yearning to do that's going to bring us that happiness. And if it works, awesome. And if it doesn't work, almost as awesome. Because we get to look at the situation that we're in again and make another choice. We have the right to continue that pursuit. We don't have to choose once and then lock ourselves in on that path. See the part at the beginning about freedom. Freedom is another word for whatever you think freedom is, for whatever freedom means to you. And it can change. Because you don't have freedom, and that's the end of the story. There's freedom every time we go through another cycle, another step, another moment, another breath. I'm free to breathe in. I'm free to breathe out. I'm free to leave town. I'm free to stay. I'm free to have something brand new in my life now. I'm free to continue doing the things that have been serving me well in the past. I'm not obligated to continue doing what I have been doing. I am free to continue doing the things that I've been doing. I am free to continue doing the things that I've been doing and continue to complain about how horrible they are. It doesn't really serve me. I have learned that that's not something that's particularly helpful to do. But there's no outside governing force that tells me that I can't. You know what another great word for freedom is? Freedom. When you go through the dictionary, there's a lot of synonyms for freedom, but freedom's a really powerful word. Unfettered, unchained, not restricted, nothing holding me back. Whether it was my station in birth, whether it's my bank account, whether it's my home address or zip code, whether it's who my friends are, what my associations are, even what my permanent record says. Anybody see their permanent record? I mean, some people are dealing with permanent records. There's medical charts. There's some that the government and the police authorities have that they keep tabs on what's been going on a permanent record. But I remember being very, very concerned when I was in elementary school that something was going to go on my permanent record. Maybe it mattered. At this point, I don't know. But everything that you do is part of your permanent record. Because even if nobody else knows you did it, you know you did it. The infinite knows that you did it. There is one power, one mind that is everything, everyone, everywhere. That is the omniscient God presence. And it doesn't know it because it's outside of you spying on you. It's not looking down on us, keeping tabs and making notes. It's because it is us. That one infinite power and presence is blossoming as everyone, as every situation, as every moment. It is equally present now as it was at the very beginning of time. It is equally present in me as it is in each one of us, as it is in everybody who we like to complain about, everybody who we look up to. That divine power and presence knows because it is doing all of these things. It is thinking all of these thoughts. It is being all of these experiences. And because we are each an expression of that infinite power and presence, and we have this freedom, we are free to use that power to create anything that we want next. I can tell you kind of, to a certain extent, what my life is like from, let's say, birth through age, I don't know, mid to late 50s. I can't tell you the same story about Lane, because Lane's not that far into her story. Lane's got a great story. She already has a great story. Her story's getting even better. There's some twists and turns and some really high peaks, possibly some challenging pieces now. Are you 8 now or 7? You're 8? Yeah. This many times. We all have that potential. It's really easy to see it when somebody's 8. Like, oh, there's all those possibilities that are in front of us. Well, you know what? Take a deep breath. Deep breath out. That was not foreordained. Every moment is an opportunity to choose something new, to do something new, to be something new, to have a different experience. Every moment is an opportunity to take a next step on the path. And you are completely free to look over your shoulder and say, oh, what an awful path I've been on. I've been going in circles for all this time. Or I've been wandering from hither to yon. I'm on my 9th career now. I'm kind of enjoying it, but I'm on my 9th career. If I look over my shoulder, to what I thought I was going to be doing when I started out with careers, it's like, well, this is nothing like what I had in mind. And yet every step along the way has been that next perfect step for me, divinely guided. And when I look over my shoulder at that path that I've been on, every step has been the step of God. Every step has been that next whatever to create this new experience. Some of them I'd be happy to have done without. Some of them, if I could trade them in for other experiences, I would probably do that. But that wouldn't bring me to here. That would bring me to a different present moment. So whatever path you've been on, whatever it is that's been going on for you, it is bringing you to this moment where you can even more consciously, more intentionally, and more fully choose what it is that you're going to be having in your life next. Because you're free. You're free. one of the most limiting things that I've ever heard in my life. And I spent a bunch of time as a business process consultant, which is wonderful, especially in the good old days when you had to go on site. You couldn't do all this stuff by like web conference like we do now. So I was actually a consultant. I was the expert from out of town. I would show up with an airplane ticket and a briefcase, and the farther you traveled, the higher esteem you got from the people who you went to visit. It's amazing. You know, I could say stuff at my dinner table and people would go, "It's Bill. Man, you take me 1,500 miles away and take me into a business meeting." It's like, "Ooh, Bill's here. He's going to give us his opinion." It's like, it's really hard to stop me. But some people have said that business consulting is going and telling somebody what time it is on their watch. The most deep-seated challenge I have ever seen is when people say, well, that's the way we've always done it. That's the way we've always done it. And continuing to do it the way that you've always done it is a wonderful possibility. You can continue to do things the way that you've always done them. There is tradition. There's ritual. There is a certain pattern of success. If we've always done it that way and it's always worked the way that we want it to and we are happy with the way things are going, then keep doing it the way that you've been doing it. But by golly, when somebody brings me in as a business consultant because things are not working, the business is not going the way that it should be, and they say, well, this is the way we've always done it, it's like, well, then you're going to continue getting the results that you've been getting. My job is to break beyond that. We are free to do it that way or to do it differently. I'm not going to call the way that we used to do it bad. In the industry that I was doing a lot of this in was the printing and publishing industry. When I first got started, they would get big galleys of type, and they would use razor blades and cut them out and put them into layouts so that it would look like the ad or the newspaper page or the magazine. And then they would make the films from that and then run them on the printing press. And instead of glue, they used wax. They had machines that would heat up the wax, and you coat the backs of these little strips of paper, and then you put the wax pieces on a layout. Nobody does that anymore. There's a whole business called typesetting. Gone. Desktop publishing completely did away with that. There were layout artists. It's now you can just get yourself a copy of InDesign or Microsoft Publisher. Gone. There were pre-press shops where they would make sure that the color is going to come out of the printing press exactly right. Gone. Because you can do that all with a computer at this point. And the number of people who I heard saying, well, I'm a typesetter. That's what I've always done. It's like, good for you. Better think of something new. I was with a consulting company. We had the head of our training team. She had a brochure that she carried around with her to all of her training sites because she would every once in a while run into somebody who says, well, I'm a typesetter. I'm not going to learn something new. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a typesetter. And she'd hand them a brochure from the Florida School of Bartending. She'd say, I don't know what you're doing next, but 5 years from now, it's not going to be typesetting. If you're not going to learn how to use the computer, if you're not going to learn to do something different, you're going to have to get yourself a whole different career. There was nothing wrong with being a typesetter. The people who needed typesetting were very grateful to have those people. They were the way showers in how these pieces could come together and how they could be automated later. So there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're clinging to the past, oh, I've always been a typesetter, that's what I'm going to do, that's my career, I'm going to ride that to the ground. Ground is coming up fast. What does freedom mean to you? Because you are in this moment and in every moment free to choose what's new and what's next. And part of it is identifying what those gifts are that each of us has. When I look inside, what do I have? What is my combination of gifts and desires? What do I have to share? What is it that I'm looking for? And then let go of all those preconceived notions and say, I'm open myself up to what's next. My first career was as a zany morning show radio personality. Looking back, it was going to be pretty much impossible to transition directly from that to New Thought Minister. So there were some changes along the way that needed to happen. I mean, it could be, but it's relatively unlikely. The circuitous path that I've taken, the experiences that I've had along the way, have made me much more prepared for the role that I'm in now. So don't look at the experiences you've had and say, this is bad. This was a waste of my time. This is something that I should not have done. Maybe it's something that, knowing what you know now, you wouldn't do again. But that's good, because you're free to choose now, and you're not going to make that same choice again. You get to make a different choice. And that's what it's all about. As we finish up this week-long Independence Day, consider your freedom. Consider the gift that you have to make that next choice. Consider the gift that you are, and what it is that you have to share, and what it is that you have to offer. Because you're not looking to God out there to give you something. That's the biggest mistake that we can make, is to think that there's some disconnection between us and the infinite. That same thing that's making me want to have something new in my experience is that power that's welling up inside of me and saying, I am something valuable to be shared. So this week, as you go post-Independence Day, as you step into your new experience of freedom, consider, what's that next gift? What's that next invitation? What is it that's calling to bring itself into being through you? And then let that happen. And enjoy it. This is a fun process. Have a great time with it, because you deserve it. I love you. So it is.